Hi, I'm Mark Maringer, sitting here with Marcia Johnson. I wanted to talk with her about her race in District 5 for Denver City Council. Marcia, thanks for speaking with us, and let me just sort of start things off by asking you to sort of tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Thank you for being here. I have served on the Denver Board of Education for Denver Public Schools, 6 years, 1 term. That's it. That was it. We were all citywide at that time. 2 terms on the Denver Election Commission, and 1 term on City Council.
Denver Election Commission, that's it?
Yes.
Yeah, years back though, I assume.
Well, just prior to this service on City Council.
Okay, great. So, I imagine that the elections ran a little more smoothly back then.
I'm proud to say that's true.
Oh, great. Well, why did you want to be on City Council specifically? I mean, what prompted you to end up running for that?
Well, I watched term limits taking place. I watched the boundary changes taking place. I had gotten hooked on city government by the proximity of Denver Election Commission to the city's actions, and saw that that was something that would be very interesting to do, very much a learning curve, quite a bit like the Board of Education in that problems are complex and interwoven. That had been a great time. And it's a job that you really can get something done. It's very hard to move that great ocean liner of the schools district. But as a district city council person, you can do things for folks.
And then, how did you get your start in politics? I mean, did you grow up in Denver and then just always want to be a Denver leader or something, or what's the background?
Well, I grew up in Alamosa,
okay.
And my first exposure was to be the campaign manager for my father, who was running statewide to succeed himself on the Colorado University Board of Regents. That was a great act of faith on his part that didn't pay off too well. But I did learn some basics. You must ask for people's support, and my father had been shy about being direct about that, so that was a lesson learned. Then when I decided to run for the Board of Education, I didn't think that was political. I thought, this is about kids and schools, this isn't about politics. I still felt that way at the end of that term. I was urged by a friend to run for the Election Commission, and I felt that was logical. You go to school, you learn citizenship issues and civics, and so from learning to read, you learn to vote, or you do vote. So that felt fine, but as I alluded to before, it was being there that I got kind of hooked on city government. When I ran for re-election on the Denver Election Commission, I think by that time I was a politician, because then I knew that after that term I would like to be on city council.
So you're an admitted politician now?
Now I am.
Okay. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about your district and your race then. What do you see as the top issues facing your district?
Well, my district's like so many others. They're very concerned about the character of the homes and what's happening with the changes in neighborhoods. There are traffic issues there because there's been a lot of growth in this district. Lowry's in this district, and that those extra 10,000 people driving on the streets in the district have been very noticeable to the people living here and the people on Lowry, of course. That continues to grow and become more dense, and they have some of the same concerns. There was always the issue of Colfax, and I have directly addressed crime on Colfax. That's been a very successful effort with the city partners, and so Colfax, development on Colfax is primed to happen.
Okay, well, what have you done on that? What can you tell people a little bit more about what you've done in Colfax?
Well, first it was quite verbal. It was asserting that we should close down the marketplace on East Colfax. Well, I think the police department were very glad to hear the political support for that, because they do their job. There is a special courtroom for that activity, courtroom 12T. The city began making sure that there was a city attorney there when the men or women who had been involved in either side of the transaction of prostitution, the cases were handled. There was a marvelous magistrate who's since moved on, but we have another in his place that I think has exactly the same philosophy, who would balance whether someone should be sentenced to jail or offered the opportunity to be in a program called Chrysalis. So actually, as the women have been prosecuted and taken off of the streets, they've been given an opportunity to have a different life, and I've been to 4 graduations of the Chrysalis program, so there's light on the end at the end of that tunnel, and there's a whole different atmosphere on East Colfax.
Okay. And what, in a new term, what would be sort of your priorities or goals that you hope to accomplish sort of going forward?
Now it's time for development on Colfax, and I have actually been able to take developers up and down the street and look at the opportunities, so I look for that to be a next step. And supporting an organization that was formed for the economic development of this strip called the Fax Partnership. So I'd like to see the fruits of the labors of the first term. Also, I'm willing to address the issues of the congestion on Quebec, and I've initiated a very complicated connection of the Westerly Creek between Lowry and Stapleton that would make it would be the last piece that's missing from a regional trail system.
Okay.
It has a lot of benefits for the people that live along the Denver-Aurora border.
Right. When it comes to the traffic on Quebec, what are there particular policy options that you support at this point, or where do things stand there?
Well, for one thing, people have been shy of the subject of talking about it because of the people who own homes on Quebec.
Right.
But the people who own homes on Quebec would like us to talk about it because they're tired of having this threat of what is going to happen looming over their heads. So having frank discussions about what is palatable to neighbors is actually a part of something that has to get done anyway. First step is an environmental impact statement. That involves a lot of community discussion. We can start the community discussion now.
Okay.